All right, it's time for another Friday Reads, and let's just get into it. But first, before we talk about what I have read, what I'm reading, what I'm going to read, the normal, Leslie from The Nerdy Narrative was the sweetest human. So I don't have a wish list in my descriptions. I don't normally buy a lot of books because finite space. But I was talking to her about how I wouldn't mind her paperback copy of Elantris since she had a rough time. And she was asking for my address for other things. And I came home on a Tuesday, which is objectively the worst day of a work week for me. I have a whole theory about why Tuesdays are the worst. And she got me the hardback of Elantris, which, if you're new here, Elantris is like my favorite Brandon Sanderson book, which I know is like a hot take. But this was my first Brandon Sanderson. I read it in 2005 when it came out. It was my first adult fantasy. I am so nostalgic for this book. I do know and I understand why it doesn't work for everyone. But I love it, and I never owned a hardback or paperback version. I just owned I have the leather bound, which is very expensive, which is why I've never spent the money on a different version, but I've been wanting to because I want to reread it, and I don't want to read from the leather bound, although I have in the past, and I wanted a copy to give to Ryan to read, and it's the 10th anniversary, so it has the special extra scene at the end, which is very important for Cosmere things, and I'm flipping through it, and it makes me so nostalgic, guys. Like, I really love this story, and I'm excited to reread it and give it the gushing review that it needs. But also hopefully a useful review. I totally see why not everyone loves it, especially if it's not their first Sanderson. It's very different from the pacing and intrigue and even magic system. Like, it's still a hard magic system, but it's just a very different story. But I love it. And I haven't given a synopsis, and I'm not going to, but Leslie's amazing. Her channel will be in the description. She is one of my longest booktube friends. We started around the same time a year ago. She's awesome. I actually have a whole tag video I did last week because it was her birthday. It was her birthday and she bought me a book. Can we talk about how amazing she is? But I have it in the card. The Codex Cantina boys put it together. It's amazing. Now we can get into the books. I have finished one book, I believe, since we last chatted. Actually, two. I finished two books. Look at me. I finished Phoenix Extravagant. I have so many thoughts. I'm going to be brief here because I'll talk about it in my wrap-up, and I do believe I'll make a review for it after we discuss it at book club next month in the Patreon. I did buddy read this with Jocelyn, and it's not my favorite Yoon Ha Lee. That's definitely still Machineries of Empire. This is definitely, I don't know, there's a lot of things I like about it, but then there are a lot of things that I'm like, that was a choice. But what I will say is it has some of my favorite tropes. It's definitely still Yoon Ha Lee's writing and imagination, so there's a lot of pros. But I did not love it as much as I wanted to, which is always a shame, but that's okay. I'm still really glad I have it on my shelves. If you didn't see in last week's, the inside of this is still like gorgeous. Like, I like the cover itself, but the inside, stunning. So yeah, I'm gonna be brief. I just have a lot of conflicting thoughts. It was still a really great story. I also really like that it's alternate, almost historical fantasy. Like, not quite, it's like a different world, but the setting is very heavily inspired on historical events in our like 20th century, which I also found really interesting. But I think also is why maybe I don't like something. I have conflicting thoughts. It's a conflicting experience, but that's okay. And then I picked up The Gilded Ones. This is for the Space Science Book Club. I'll have that channel down below. We just did a Memory Called Empire discussion. It was amazing. But this is the book we're going to discuss in April. Our date is not set, but it's usually one of the first 2 weekends in April, so just keep an eye out on the social media and things like that if you care. But we voted for The Gilded Ones. And I didn't have any expectations going in other than I knew it was young adult. I knew the premise roughly, and I got really hung up on like a small world building thing, like right at the beginning, but it got fixed. I was like, hold up, what's happening? But for the most part, I really liked it. It had a surprising element that I wasn't expecting. I personally really liked when you have a young adult book, I'm actually going to have a whole video on my experience and like things I think about when I'm picking up a young adult book, but it had a lot of the qualities you associate with a young adult book, I think, executed really well. I think my only complaint was the falling action of it. Like, I think I liked everything until the falling action. It was kind of a slow start, but that's like standard for me with books. Like, it takes you a minute to get some buy-in into the characters. I really liked the middle. I really liked a lot of the character relationships and interactions, but there's something about the falling action which could be resolved in following books in the series, and I think I'm still intrigued enough to pick those up when they come out. I think it's called the Deathless series, but who knows when they're coming out. I know this book got postponed. Like, it was supposed to be published in 2020 and it, was published in 2021. So I don't know. It is dark though. I need people to understand this is young adult. Yes, it hits a lot of like the things you associate with young adult, but it is graphic. Like, I was unprepared. What I learned this past week is I'm reading a lot of graphic military fantasy, and I don't think I expected the Gilded Ones to be that. Like, I don't know. I knew it was going to have heavy themes and things in it, but it's kind of gruesome at times. It's very vivid in its portrayal of, like, not even war. That's not the gruesome part. Like, if you don't know, The Gilded Ones is a story about this world where at the age of maturity, which is around 15, women could have normal blood that runs red or golden blood. And if you have the golden blood, you are impure and get killed. Except our main character, who, spoiler alert, has golden blood, doesn't get killed, and it's about her journey from there and this world and the history and everything. And there were things that were fairly predictable, but not in a way I didn't like. Like, it's like I'm supposed to be catching on to this. The author's not hiding this from me. I'm supposed to catch on. I liked that our main character is really smart. There were a lot of things I liked. I just wish the falling action was just a little stronger. Like, if that was a little stronger, it would have been like a 4.5, like a really surprising read for me. And like I said, continuing into my military fantasy week, I've been listening to Tower of Swallows, which for once I'm not forgetting to tell you about it. When I'm not physically reading something, I like forget to talk about it. I'm about halfway through now, and surprise, surprise, we had some Geralt scenes and I was having a good time. Shocker. I'm really actually interested in where the plot of the story is going. I think I'm now very curious about how things are playing out. I also just, like, I don't know, it has me excited for the show whenever we do get season 2. I don't have any new thoughts. I feel like I've talked about The Witcher in a lot of videos lately, so I'm just gonna stop. But I'm halfway through Tower of Swallows. It's still going well. And then I am about this far, like this marker, into Dead House Gates. So 304 pages into this 830-page book. I am enjoying it, but again, dark military fantasy. And in all of them, all the women are having like the worst time. Like, ooh, it's not great. It's not great. This though is like, I mean, I feel like dark things happen in Gardens of the Moon, but God, it's getting really dark. Because how much is known here? Okay, it says on the back of the book, but we are in the 7 cities, and the 7 cities is a continent in Malazan, and it's undergoing some revolution. And it's very much like what you think about for revolution, like when you learn about like the French Revolution, like it's not peaceful. And we're getting to observe from many angles the many horrors of that. And yeah, it's a lot. But we're also now in this really cool magic area, and I really like a lot of the groupings. One thing I do like about this versus Gardens of the Moon is that in Gardens of the Moon, we had so many characters, like, I don't know, 30 named characters that mattered. That could be an exaggeration, but there were a lot. And in this one, there's still a lot of characters, but we're kind of grouped into specific parts, and it's more manageable. And we get introduced to them like in the first chapter. And so like each chapter, we get to hop between these perspectives, and we kind of go in this circle. And it makes it a little bit more accessible to me. And I'm kind of like trying to think, ooh, is this group going to intersect with this group and what's happening? And we finally had like Dead House Gates, like Dead House, like I know what this means now. For like the first 300 pages, I'm like, I don't know why this is called Dead House Gates, but now I know. So I'm going to have a spoiler vlog and a spoiler-free review. So I'll stop talking, but I'm still enjoying it. It's still very much a chapter-a-day book. That's just how I read these, because I mean, a chapter is like 50 pages for these books, so that's still a lot of reading. I'm also still reading Sunspot Jungle. We've had some interesting stories since I last talked. Some that we really liked, and some that we did not. And then one where it was really interesting because we had very different reactions. And that one, oh, I can't remember its name. I'll have it on the screen. But that one was interesting because we largely interpreted it similarly. Like we had this father rushing to his daughter's bedside when she's about to die, and he wants forgiveness because he was kind of like a bad father figure. And we both saw that this was a story that was victimizing this person in ways that we didn't feel comfortable with, but I saw it as a very interesting story in that I was getting to empathize with this character who was, you know, going through his life and seeing all the mistakes he had made to get him to this point. And Shannon, who I've been bunny reading this with, like hated him, like could not stand him, which I totally see. So it was just a really interesting like moment in the buddy read, but still making progress there. We just had a few zombie stories that were like very short and cute, but like nothing to write home about. But I'm still enjoying like just casually picking away at that. It's been really great. And in case you guys are wondering, I know I mentioned this like in the Nerdy Narrative book tag, I did buy El Tercer Mundo Después del Sol. I don't know when I'm gonna read it, but I now have it. It's on my Kindle. It's a Spanish short story anthology for YA, I think, science fiction and fantasy based in South America. Super excited. So what I just picked up, so I have no thoughts, but I'm reading it, is The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. This is the third book in the Poppy War series. And I forgot to mention it in my winter series wrap-up spring series TBR video that went up live on Wednesday, which that'll be in the cards for you. It's just where I talk about what I've read series-wise. And I'm very excited. I read a recaptions done by my friend Amber. She has a whole website where they recap stories. Highly recommend. I was able to read that for the Dragon Republic, and I feel way more fresh going in. Like, I remember names. Like, that's the thing I forget. I don't forget plot points between books, or those are easy to remember. I forget names, and I'm like, wait, who are you? Why do you matter? Like, that happened to me with the Throne of Glass series so often. Like, I think I paused after book 5 until book 7 came out, and there was like a gap of like 5 months, and I like was like, who are you all? Who are you people? So recaptions really helped me with that. So that was great. And so I'm excited to read that, but again, dark military fantasy. Like, what's wrong with me? What is happening? The book that I'm going to read after that is We Free the Stars, and I'm hoping, like, that's not a military fantasy book. That's just a young adult fantasy book. It's a really cool setting. I'm hoping it's not too dark or that I'm able to handle it. It's just so much darkness. It's just so much war. I need different themes. I also have, if I somehow finish that, which I'm not going to, but these are the books I'm reading because it's tome topple right now. So those are my tomes: Dead House Gates, We Free the Stars, and The Burning God. Why can't I name things? But if somehow I go crazy, I need to pick up Machine Hood, because that would be the last book on my bracket, which I will update the bracket here real quick. It was really close. Winter's Orbit almost lost to the Gilded Ones. I just liked the Falling Action in Winter's Orbit a bit more than the Gilded Ones, but they're both like 4-star reads. It was surprisingly close, because although they're both 4-star reads, Winter's Orbit was like a, man, I was hoping this was a 4.5-star read, and the Gilded Ones was a, this is better than I expected. Like, I had no expectations, 4-star read. So there's that. And Phoenix Extravagant still does beat Deacon King Kong, even though I didn't like it as much as I wanted, because I didn't really like Deacon King Kong. And I now have more words to describe why I don't like it. And that's because it romanticizes something I do not like it romanticizing. But I will leave it at that so I don't spoil anything. But like, yeah, didn't love that one. And I'm currently working in the upper bracket with Dead House Gates versus The Burning God. So we'll see what happens. I'm on track to finish in time, maybe with time to get to Well of Ascension. That is the goal. So this is the end of this one. What are you reading this weekend? I'm also going to see Raya and the Last Dragon, guys. I'm gonna go watch it. It's gonna be so good. I'm so excited. I don't even really know what it's about. I watched the trailer and I'm like, yes, this is a very pretty fantasy. I want to go see it. And it's the same people who did Moana, and I love Moana, so I'm pumped. I'm really pumped. But that's it for this one. If you want to leave an emoji, I don't know, a sword. Lots of military fantasy this week, so a sword. That should work. And like, if you liked it, subscribe. If you want to, come check out the Discord if you want to chat, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Bye!